The F on the page stood like a tombstone, marking the death of a dream. It was the third time I had failed the architectural board certification, and the weight of that single letter felt heavy enough to collapse the very buildings I longed to create. My mind, which was supposed to be a blueprint for grand designs, felt like a cluttered attic full of forgotten facts and inaccessible knowledge. That single, stark letter was not an ending, but the desperate, painful beginning of a journey I never could have imagined. My name is Leo, and for years, I believed that learning was about brute force endless hours in the library, fueled by caffeine and sheer willpower. But my willpower had run dry, and the library had become a monument to my failures. In my despair, I sought out the one person on campus who was spoken of in whispers. A semi-righted professor of cognitive science named Dr. Alistair Finch. They called him a ghost, an eccentric genius who had once consulted for intelligence agencies, a man who understood the architecture of the mind itself. I found him not in a sterile lab, but in a dusty office overflowing with books, a place that smelled of old paper and Earl Grey tea. He listened to my story without interruption, his eyes sharp and analytical. When I finished, he didn't offer sympathy. He offered a challenge. "Your mind isn't a warehouse, Leo," he said, his voice a low rumble. "It's a high-performance engine. You've just been putting the wrong fuel in it. Give me 4 weeks. We're going to rebuild it." The first week was the strangest. Dr. Finch called it hypno-learning. He gave me a set of audio files containing my own voice reading key architectural principles. Layered over a soft, rhythmic 4Hz tone, the theta brainwave frequency, he explained, the gateway to the subconscious. My task was to play this recording every night as I fell asleep. He also taught me a simple trigger, 3 quick snaps of my fingers. "When you hear this in the recording," he instructed, "your mind will mark the information that follows as critical." I felt ridiculous lying in bed, listening to myself drone on about load-bearing walls, while a faint metronome pulsed in my ears. But a few days later, while trying to recall the name of a specific Roman aqueduct engineer, I grew frustrated. I instinctively snapped my fingers 3 times, and the name Fronton surfaced in my mind as clearly as if I'd just read it. It was a flicker of magic, a hint that the cluttered attic of my mind had a hidden, organized basement I was only just beginning to access. Week 2, Dr. Finch dragged me out of the quiet library and into the chaos of the city. This was neuropriming. My assignment was to study in the loudest, most distracting environments I could find, a bustling coffee shop during the lunch rush, a crowded park next to a playground, even the food court of a shopping mall. "An operative can't ask the world to be quiet," he explained. "It must build a fortress of focus within the storm." The first few days were torture. The clatter of plates, the cry of a child, the endless chatter, it all felt like a physical assault on my concentration. But I persisted, focusing on a single paragraph, a single diagram, for 10 minutes at a time. Slowly, miraculously, a shift occurred. The external noise began to fade, not into silence, but into a uniform, ambient hum. My focus, once a fragile candle flame, sharpened into a laser beam. I learned to erect a wall of concentration so powerful that a fire truck could have screamed past the window without me noticing. By week 3, I was ready for what Dr. Finch called sensory memorization. He argued that memory is not just intellectual, it's emotional and physical. We had to give the abstract information a tangible anchor. We linked the stark, bold principles of brutalist architecture to the bitter taste of black coffee. The intricate, organic designs of Art Nouveau were tied to the scent of lavender I kept on my desk. I bought a small, smooth river stone, and every time I studied the foundational principles of structural integrity, I held it in my hand, feeling its cool, unyielding weight. My knowledge was no longer just a collection of words on a page. It was a symphony of smells, tastes, and textures. The history of Gothic cathedrals was no longer a date to be memorized. It was the faint smell of frankincense and the imagined sound of a distant choir. The final week was the culmination of everything. Dr. Finch introduced me to 2 final techniques, the memory palace and 10-minute cycles. My own small apartment, a place I knew intimately, became my palace. The front door was the entryway to ancient Greece. Its 3 locks represented the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns. My kitchen, with its precise measurements for recipes, became the repository for engineering formulas. The bookshelf in my living room, with its different genres, housed the different architectural periods. To retrieve information, I would simply take a mental walk through my home. At the same time, I abandoned long, grueling study sessions. Instead, I worked in hyper-focused 10-minute sprints. It's a technique Finch called mental downloads. 10 minutes on Renaissance floor plans, then a 2-minute break. 10 minutes on modern material science, then another break. This active interleaving kept my mind fresh and agile, preventing the burnout that had plagued me before. I was no longer cramming, I was integrating. When the day of the exam arrived, I felt a calm I hadn't experienced before. As I sat down, I didn't feel the familiar dread. I took a deep breath, caught the faint scent of lavender from a sachet in my pocket, and felt the smooth river stone in my hand. The first question, on the structural dynamics of the Pantheon, appeared. I closed my eyes for a second, and I wasn't in the sterile exam room. I was standing at my kitchen counter looking at the dome of my mixing bowl, the formulas for tensile and compressive strength laid out like ingredients before me. A question on urban planning had me mentally gazing out my living room window at the city's skyline. When I momentarily blanked on a complex zoning law, I snapped my fingers 3 times, and the answer, planted in my subconscious weeks earlier, floated to the surface. I moved through the test, not with anxiety, but with a quiet confidence, navigating the palace of my own mind. Weeks later, an official envelope arrived. I held it for a moment, my heart steady. I opened it, and this time, the letter on the page was not a tombstone. It was a PA. Simple, beautiful P for pass. But the victory felt deeper than that single letter. Dr. Finch had given me more than a passing grade. He had given me the keys to my own mind. I learned that the greatest barriers we face are not the complexity of the subject, but the limitations of our approach. We are all architects, not just of buildings, but of our own potential. The most magnificent structure you will ever build is a mind that knows how to learn, how to adapt, and how to turn a wall of failure into a foundation for victory. The true architecture wasn't in the buildings I would one day design, but in the mind I had finally and completely rebuilt.